Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the In-Demand Hairstylist podcast. I'm so excited that you are here today. I have a topic that I'm actually very excited to talk about today. It's something that I have gone through not that long ago, and I'm really excited to share. I think it's going to be very helpful for many, many of you. And so I can't wait to dive into that. But before I do, I want to share with you that I have created something so incredibly special for you guys to celebrate 100K downloads of the In-Demand Hairstylist podcast. I've created a space on Patreon where you guys can come to gain access to podcast episodes before they are ever launched. So you get early access to every podcast episode 7 days early. You will also gain access to exclusive interviews with industry professionals that will not be posted anywhere else. So they're not going to be on the podcast. They're not going to be in the private Facebook group. They will only be within the In-Demand Hairstylist Live Patreon page. So you guys can join that. And then finally, the other thing that you will get each and every month is a digital download. And these are probably my favorite benefit of being a subscriber. And why I love this is that as a stylist, to have content, to have a tool every single month that's going to help me build my business behind the chair is so valuable. And as an owner, what I would be doing with these resources is I would be printing them out and creating a training program for my new team members. And you can use these as training tools within your salon for your stylists. And so it takes that work off of your plate. It gives you something that you can give to your team that you don't have to use your time, energy, and effort to create. And so these are probably my most favorite part about being a part of the In-Demand Hairstylist Live. And so I'm so excited to create this community and really take it to the next level. So for those of you who enjoy the podcast, you really love tuning in and you're ready to take it to the next level and have access to the podcast firsthand, get access to exclusive content and bonus content, and have digital downloads, resources every single month, you'll want to join the group. It's $7 a month, you guys, and it's so valuable. Like I said, even the digital downloads on their own are going to be amazing. So to get monthly education, that's going to help you build your business behind the chair. Totally awesome. And I'm really excited to offer for you. So I will put that in the show notes. You guys can hop on over to Patreon and I'll include that link so it can take you right there. But with that being said, I want to shift into our topic for today, which is how the heck to balance being an owner and being a stylist behind the chair. So I know that many of you are in a situation where you are a salon owner, whether that be a suite, or maybe you rent a space in a salon, or you have a team and you are, a full-blown salon owner, commission-based salon owner, hourly salon owner, whatever it might be. And on top of that, you are also working behind the chair. I would say 99% of salon owners out there are in the scenario where they are the business owner, but they are also working behind the chair. And so if that is you and you are feeling overwhelmed, tapped out, burnt out, exhausted, feeling like you're juggling 700 plates at one time, it's probably because you are. You have two full-time jobs. You are a business owner, an entrepreneur, and you're also a hairstylist. And so trying to do both, especially once you start to grow, it becomes very overwhelming. And it can be the thing that takes you to the place of burnout. And what I would just suggest is don't let yourself get to that place. Do not let yourself get to the place of complete burnout before you start making decisions, because if you let yourself get to that place, you're going to make really poor decisions. So I'm going to give you guys some advice around how to balance the responsibilities that you have as an owner and the responsibilities that you have as a stylist. Oftentimes with my coaching clients, what I say is it's hard, but you sort of have to do this in the beginning. Is you have to almost look at it as wearing two different hats. So at certain times you have to put on your stylist hat, and then at other moments, you might have to shift gears and put on your owner hat. And those two roles and responsibilities look really, really different. And who you have to be actually is different as well, depending on what level you're at and where you're at in your business. So I know that many of you are in all different scenarios. So it's hard to speak to each and every one of you individually, but I can share with you my own experience and what that looked like, and sort of how it worked out for me and the things that I did to create more balance in my life and in my business. So for me, I opened up my salon and it was just me to start. My mom and I actually opened the salon together, and she worked behind the chair. I worked behind the chair for probably the first year. And then she's really started taking on a lot of the business responsibilities while I really focused on taking clients. And so for a long time that worked. I would say for the first 4 to 5 years in the business, that worked great because my mom focused on the business. I worked behind the chair until 2013, when my mom and dad moved to Charlotte, North Carolina for my dad's job. Well, at that point, my mom and everything that she was doing in the business on the business side of things, she sort of was like, "Hey, Kristen, here. This is your responsibility now. You have to do this. I'm not going to be able to help you. We're moving 7 hours away. So here's a binder full of all the information. The accountant's information is in here. The bookkeeper's information is in here, payroll information." And she sort of just handed it over to me. And that was that. So what I tried to do for a long time was I tried to do it all. So I took on the responsibility of doing payroll. So at that point in my business, I had several employees. So that adds a whole nother element to salon ownership when you start bringing on team members. So maybe you're in that place and you know exactly what I'm talking about, but maybe you're in a place where you don't have employees yet. And really the responsibilities are more around taking inventory, cleaning the salon, placing the orders, picking up the orders, putting them away, returning messages, updating your social media, doing, updating and doing marketing, maybe your website, things like that. So I was doing all of those things, but on top of it, I had several employees. So I was doing payroll every other week, and having to have meetings with my accountant. And also I was working full time. I call it like extra full time. I was working, every hour that the salon was open, I was also behind the chair, which meant that on my days off, then I was working on the business. And this is the trap that I think many salon owners get into, is that they work behind the chair all week long, and then they do business stuff on their day off. So maybe your salon is closed on Mondays, Sundays, and Mondays, and you find yourself doing like the business stuff on Mondays. I would say that there's sometimes you just have to do what you have to do. I can't say that I never did that. I definitely worked on my days off a lot, especially whenever I was in that transition phase. But what I would say is that, try your very best to not do that. Try your very best to give yourself the time to fill your cup up, because throughout the week, you guys, if you're doing your job behind the chair the way you should be doing it, you're pouring into people all week long. You're pouring into them physically, mentally, emotionally. Our jobs are so much more than just doing a haircut and making somebody look cute. If you're a hairstylist for any amount of time, you know what I'm talking about. There are times when it's not even that you have a physically demanding day, but you have a mentally demanding day, and you just feel depleted and exhausted when you're done. And if you don't give yourself the time to replenish and to fill your cup and to rest and rejuvenate yourself, it's a slippery slope that you can go down quickly. And this is when hairstylists experience burnout, is when they do not give themselves the time to recoup. So that can happen really quickly if you're doing hair all week long, and then on Mondays and maybe even Sundays, you're working on business stuff, whether that's, taking inventory, cleaning the salon, running and picking up an order, returning messages on Instagram, Facebook, whatever it might be. So here is my suggestion. I'm going to walk you through 3 things, then I'm going to give you a bonus at the end to help you balance. And this is what I started doing to balance and still have your weekend. Because what I don't want you to do is do hair or do your business stuff on every Sunday and Monday when you're not working, or whatever day is your day off. You absolutely need to give yourself that time. So the first thing that I will say is that you should be doing is find a designated day to block off a little bit of time. So for me, I got to a point where I just realized, oh my gosh, like I hit a place of complete burnout. I was doing everything. I was growing a team. I was trying to manage a team. I was working behind the chair. I had my son, I was trying to run a household, all of the things, like many of you guys. And I hit this place of complete burnout. And I was like, I cannot do this anymore. So I picked a day and a time, and I started with 2 hours. So I gave myself 2 hours, and I went ahead in my book and I blocked it off. So my original, I called them my business day or my business hours, and I blocked them off indefinitely into the future. So my business day, my business hours were on Thursdays, and I would do from 9 to 11. So it was literally 9 to 11, but I'm telling you guys, when you do this, it is like the biggest weight lifted off of your shoulders and your chest when you know that you have 2 hours every week blocked off to catch up, at the very least, just to catch up and catch your breath. And so many of you, if you're like me, and it's hard for me to even rewind and think, like, how did I think like this? But I remember doing that at the time and thinking, there's no way I can do this. I can't block off 2 hours. Like, are you kidding me? I can't block off 2 hours of my day. Like, I have clients that need in. I'm going to lose money. Like, I can't block off 2 hours. And so now I can kind of laugh about it, because I actually got to the point where I didn't work at all behind the chair and worked fully on my business. So it's kind of comical to think back at it, but I actually really remember exactly how I felt. And it felt really scary to block off 2 hours every single week. I was like, oh, well, maybe I could do it once a month. But to be realistic, you guys, to run a business, it takes doing consistent work every single week on your business just to maintain it, not even to grow it, just to maintain it. So if you're not giving yourself this time, that means that you're really just letting your business operate on its own. And that's a really scary thing. And that's when business really can go sideways. And I don't want to see that for you and your business. So start by designating just 2 hours, 1 day a week. So I want you to think right now, if I were to work on my business for 2 hours, what day would that be? Like, would that be Tuesday? Would that be Wednesday? Would that be Saturday? Like, what day would work best? And if you need a layer of accountability, you guys, send me a message. Literally email me, Kristen@indemandhairstylist.com, and let me know your day and your time that you're going to block off for your business. I would love to know, because I want to support you through this. It's scary and it can be scary, but I promise you, you will thank yourself later for doing this. And so the first thing is to designate a day and time. And if you're already doing this, if you are already taking a couple of hours each week to work on your business, my challenge for you is to extend that time. So if you're working 2 hours, block off a half day. Maybe you block off 4 hours and then you work in the evening, or vice versa. Maybe you work during the day and block off a few hours at the end of your day to do your business work. If you're already taking a half day, my next thing would be to go ahead and extend a full day and take one full business day. And that's really the transition that I would go to. I would not immediately go into taking an entire day off if you're not doing that at all right now. Only because typically if you're in this place, your business still needs you behind the chair to financially provide for all of the business's expenses. So you can't just it would not be a good idea just to completely take an entire day off. Unless you are incredibly profitable and you can do that. But most of the time, the business still needs you to be behind the chair to be able to financially provide. So I always recommend doing it in increments. 2 hours is not going to make or break you. Figure out what you would make in those 2 hours and where throughout the week could you make that up. And I guarantee you, you'll see that it's very easy to make up 2 hours of time. So designate a day and time, and do not, that's the other piece of this, is that it becomes a non-negotiable. It doesn't matter if Susie calls and says that, oh my gosh, I have a hair emergency. My hair is falling out. I tried coloring it. Can you please, please, please get me in? The answer is no. And this is where you get to have really strong boundaries, and it becomes a non-negotiable. If you're a serious business owner, and if you are serious about if you're serious about protecting your energy and not letting yourself get into a place of stress and overwhelm, then you need to have non-negotiable boundaries. And it can be loving and beautiful, and it doesn't have to be harsh at all. It can just be, I'm so sorry. I designate this time specifically to work on my business. I understand that you're in a tough spot right now. I can fit you in here, but I just absolutely cannot be flexible with this time. And that's it, so you have to be really clear and really protect your boundaries and have this day and time be a non-negotiable. Because I know myself, for a little bit when I first started doing this, I would end up booking people because I would feel bad, or I would feel like, oh my gosh, I'm missing out on this $100 service because I'm taking 2 hours away from the chair. But you have to start to shift your mindset that you're actually an entrepreneur right now. And the goal is not for you to be behind the chair pumping the business all the time. So we want to start to shift into a more of an entrepreneurial mindset. Doesn't mean you have to get out from behind the chair or stop doing hair, but you do have to know that you have responsibilities as a business owner as well. So designate a day and time. And number 2 is make a to-do list. So the second thing is like, well, if I'm blocking off this time, what am I supposed to be doing during my business days or my business hours? And I think that that is really going to vary for every salon owner, depending on your situation. If you have employees, if you don't have employees, how much inventory you have, if you sell retail in the salon, all of those things. But at the very least, I say that this is a time when you pay your bills, like catch up, go through your expenses for the month, for the week, check your revenue. This is the time when you can look at your numbers, look at your expenses, pay your bills. If you have payroll, this is the time that you would maybe do your payroll. This is a time when you could do your inventory. There's only going to be so much that you can get done within these couple of hours. So I always recommend that the first thing that you do is start to get familiar with your revenue and with your expenses. Like during this time, you should really be looking at what were last week's numbers? What were our expenses last month? And really so that you can set goals for yourself and for your team. So I say that those are probably the most important things. And then of course, if there's inventory that needs to be done or any pressing issues. This is sometimes also when I would schedule, like if the reps would come in, our sales reps, I would actually try and schedule them on my business days or on my business hours, and I would limit the time. So most of the time it would be like a 15-minute to a half an hour meeting with the rep. They could sit down, tell me what they have going on. So make yourself a to-do list. Like, what are the most important things? And I would say first on that list should definitely be start looking at your revenue and expenses each and every week. Most of the time, if you have a salon software, all of that information is in there for you. You may not be looking at it right now. You may not be familiar with it, but I would just say that this is a time to start getting familiar with it so that you can know, like, how is your business financially? How is the health of your business? And are you making progress? Are you staying stagnant? Like, how can you set goals for yourself financially? And there's no way to make goals for yourself or set expectations if you don't know where you're at. So this is just one of the most important things about being a business owner and an entrepreneur, is that you have to know your finances. Even if you aren't quote unquote a numbers person, which I never considered myself to be, but if you like money and you like a lifestyle that provides you freedom and flexibility, you need to start getting familiar with your numbers. So that is definitely something that you should be doing each week. So make the to-do list is number 2. And then number 3 is find a quiet space. Now, I was really fortunate in my salon to have like a specific area that was like, it was my office. It used to be like something else, but I turned it into my office. And so I had a designated space, and I could close the door and I could go in there and not be interrupted, because this is what happens on certain days. If I did not do that and I left the door open, guess what? People would come in, hey, what's going on? What are you doing? Or a client would come in and be getting shampooed and peek their head in and say, I thought that was you. And we would start talking. And guess what? My 2 hours, my precious 2 hours that I blocked off, would get eaten up by people who needed me or just wanted to talk. And as much as I love my team and as much as I love our clients, again, that was where I needed to have a boundary, because I was blocking off this time and then it was gone before I knew it. And I was getting interrupted. And although, those people did not realize that, that time was so special and so precious to me, they didn't do it on purpose, but it's a place where I needed to have a boundary because there were things that I needed to get done. So I actually would go into my office and let them know, like, hey, like, I have a lot of things I need to get done in these next couple hours. I'm going to close the door. If you need anything, if it's an emergency, then, come and get me. Otherwise, I'll be out in about a couple of hours. So you just have to learn to be a little bit clear with your boundaries, and that takes practice. So find a quiet space. So if you don't have a space within your salon to work on your business, where you can be like not interrupted by other people, I would say, honestly, do the work at home. So maybe if it's you on your own, maybe that day that is your business day, you start at 11 or 11:30 or 12 instead of starting at 9. So that's absolutely something that you can do if you don't have a space. Don't let not having an office stop you from having quote unquote office hours or business days. You don't need a designated space. You don't need some fancy like office. Like, don't let that stop you. However, it's nice to have that extra space, but you could totally like sit in your salon chair and whip out a laptop and work on the things that you have to work on. So it's not necessary, but I would just find a place, a space, or a room where you can have some quiet time and not be interrupted so that you can really focus. So that's the third thing. So one is to designate a day and a time that you can be consistent with every single week. The second thing is to make a to-do list specific to what you need. So think about the things that stress you out, the things that you fall behind on, the things that you get so anxious about because you're never getting around to doing it or you're falling behind. Like, make a list of those things so that you can get those things done in the gap that you block off specifically for your business. And then the third thing would be just find a place that you can do these things without being interrupted, whether that's by team members or by clients. So sometimes this is easier if you are a salon suite owner, because you're by yourself in your suite and you can kind of have quiet time that you block off. And this also is a time, you guys, that you can just like mentally, emotionally, spiritually, whatever it is, just refuel a little bit. Just kind of like take a deep breath, refuel up, fill your cup so that you can actually serve people in a way more powerful way. It's like when you know that you're taking care of your needs and that you are taken care of, it's so much easier to take care of other people. And you don't do it from a place of resentment. You actually do it from a place of overflow. And you can only do that if you're taking care of yourself. So the fourth thing that I will leave you with is, and this is like a little more advanced, but the bonus thing that I would just say is, as you do this, as you block off time in your business and you start to do the responsibilities on a regular basis that are the responsibilities of a business owner, whether that is entering expenses into whatever program you use, like a spreadsheet or QuickBooks. Maybe you are, doing your income and your expenses and things like that. Maybe you're doing inventory. Maybe you're organizing your product shelves and doing, social media marketing, whatever it might be that you're doing during that time. Just kind of gauge like your energy level for each of those tasks. So I always recommend, as a salon owner, that you should learn everything in your business, at least basic. Like, you should learn how to enter your expenses. You should learn how to read your reports and all of those things. You should learn how to do your inventory. You should create a system that, you follow. You should learn how to market your retail area. And I'm a huge believer that you should learn to do all of these things, at least at a basic level. But then gauge your energy and just think, like, what things do I really enjoy doing in my business? Like, what are the things that really light me up that I actually look forward to doing? And what are the things that I just feel completely drained by, completely depleted by? And those are the things that at some point, not right away, you want to delegate off. And so that might look like delegating off social media. That might be delegating off, entering the expenses or your payroll. There's lots of different responsibilities throughout the salon. And at some point you can delegate that off to somebody else, whether that is somebody on your team, whether that's an assistant, maybe another stylist who's willing to help out, or somebody you pay a little extra within your business to do certain responsibilities, or you're paying a professional outside of your business to do that thing for you. And so just that would be my bonus, is just sort of gauge your energy and really be aware of the things that like light you up, that you feel excited about, and the things that actually drain you. And that way, when you can afford to hire somebody, or when it's time, what responsibilities you want to delegate off to somebody else. So this is just my little bit of advice for you guys that are owners and stylists behind the chair. You guys, I know that is probably the most challenging place to be. It's challenging to be a salon owner. It's so super fun to be a hairstylist behind the chair. But when you're trying to do both, my goodness, it really is like having two full-time jobs. And like I mentioned in the beginning, especially once you start to grow and add anybody or any sort of addition into your business because of growth, it becomes even more overwhelming. And so put this into practice now, The idea of having designated time for your business that you work on, and at the same time, still having your time off that is a non-negotiable, that you're not working on your business. And I think that that is something very hard for an entrepreneur to do. I know for many years I operated and it was like I barely ever took time for myself. And I got to the point where I realized that that was actually doing, is doing a lot of harm in both my personal life and in my business, that I was not taking care of myself. So, make sure that you give yourself the time off that you need to refuel. Give yourself that designated time to work on your business. And that way you can show up really powerfully for where you shine most, which is, probably with your clients and doing hair and services behind the chair. So I hope this was incredibly helpful for you guys. I hope that this serves you. I hope that this makes you feel like you're not alone if you're in the place where you feel burnt out or overwhelmed trying to do 2 things or 3 things or 8 things all at once. And just know that it doesn't have to be like that. And there's actually shifts that you can make right now in your business today that can set you up for success so that you're actually able to grow and scale your business on a bigger level. So I love you guys. Have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.